Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to go through a product I was really excited about this year, how I installed it. Hopefully this is going to work out well for me. We'll get right into it. Sure, most of you have seen the product release and stuff from Fishhawk Electronics. I never thought I'd have the opportunity to run a Fishhawk probe on a kayak. Previous generation probes, I just thought they'd have way too much drag in the water, too much effort to pedal to maintain trolling speed. But when they came out with the new lithium series, I got super excited. The size of the probe, just how everything works, the long probe life, couldn't be more excited. So we'll get right into it. First, main component of the system that really excited me is the new lithium probe. As you can see, it's quite small, much smaller than my hand. This is a 4-pound fish-shaped weight that I run on my Downrigger. As you can see, much smaller in size. I hung both of these on one of my fishing scales, digital. My Downrigger weight, they call it a 4-pound. It came up as 4.3 pounds. I hung the new lithium probe on, I came up with 0.8 pounds. So this thing is ultra light, nice sleek shape, should cut through the water well. Obviously, second main component, display screen. I went with the Ultra system. So on the top of the screen, that's going to give me a true depth reading. Next we have surface temp, surface speed, and then it will display depth, temp at depth and speed at depth. One thing I was really happy to see with this display, it's a good quality display. Haven't been out on Lake Michigan yet, but did demo it on a local lake just to make sure all my install stuff worked. I was really happy to see this nice kind of rubber silicone type cover. Slips right on, should keep the screen protected. If I want to leave this on for transport, I'll have to tie some sort of rubber band or something around it to keep it from flying off. If it's a longer trip, I'll be taking the display screen off just for safety. Next component is the charger for the probe. Wireless fast charger. When my probe arrived, I plugged this in, uses a USB-C. It maybe took 2 hours till it's read it was full charge. I don't know how much charge was in the probe when they shipped it. So we'll get into the tools we need for the install. Very, very simple. Now this is on a Hobie Pro Angler. Unfortunately, and when we get bottom side, you'll see how the transducer mounts. I don't know that this is going to work well on other manufacturers of kayaks that don't have the retractable Guardian plate, but I'm sure there's ways around it. You could go with the multi-system, which uses a slip deucer that just goes on your Downrigger cable. That's an option. You do lose the true depth reading, but you know, I'm running live scope. I know a lot of other folks that are. That may not be a big deal to most people. It really wasn't to me. I wanted the opportunity to run their new top of the line setup. First things first, Phillips screwdriver. And I didn't even bother looking for the right size wrenches for the hardware, crescent wrench and a vice grips. Now when we get to the Guardian plate, this stuff will become important. For cutting the hole in the Guardian plate, these oscillating tools work great. I cut a nice straight line through that plastic. They will plunge cut. You don't need to have a starter hole. If you don't have that, simple cordless drill. You can drill the 4 holes in the corners and then use a Sawzall with a fairly narrow blade. You can get the hole cut out. Obviously, to go along with the drill index, you don't need as nice a set as this, I guess, as many sizes. I would say 3/16 and 1/4 inch were probably the two most common for the fasteners. So starting topside, as far as mounting this, it did come with its own bracket. I chose to go with a small ram mount setup. That way it's adjustable for sunlight conditions. The display reads really nice in the sun, but I do like the option to move it around a little bit. Now, being that this is a Hobie install, I'm sure all you guys are plenty well familiar with the Hobie through-hull connectors. Let's tip the camera a little bit. So out of the display unit, you've got a power wire and a wire coming from the transducer. Simply use the through-hull connector. Tucked all the wires in the hull. Any excess wires, simply looped it up. One thing I have found from my Garmin locators and such, they definitely do not recommend zip ties. They can get pulled too tight, dig into the cables. So these are two options I've found. First is these simple Velcro cord wraps. They do very well for cable management. You need a little more positive connection. These tie wraps, they've got a flexible wire inside, rubber coated. You can tie these around your wire, loop them off tight. Everything's going to stay nice and tight for you without damaging any of your cables. So that being said, we'll reset the camera and we'll move underside where all the real work happens. Again, it's very simple, but we'll get reset up and we'll show you that portion. All right, so before we go bottom side for the transducer part of it, just wanted to show this all set up on my Downrigger. Obviously, I've got a 4-pound weight. Depending on blowback, I might have to up that to a 6. The Fishhawk probe comes with this double barrel swivel, the big snaps, the probe, and then obviously this is the clip that came as part of my Downrigger. This is on, if you're doing this on a kayak, I know a lot of guys are running the little Scotty Lake trollers. I own one, used it, they're fine. But when you start looking at hanging this extra weight on them, I believe the little lake trollers are rated for 4-pound max. This is a Scotty 1050. 2-to-1 retrieve, which I really enjoy. The only problem is the arms are too long, so I did shorten the arm by 9 inches. That brought it close enough to the side of the kayak. I can reach my release clip from my seat without reaching so far I'm worried I'm going to fall in the water. So that'll top off the topside view, and yeah, we'll get this thing flipped and get into the meat and potatoes of it. Alright, so here we are bottom side. As you can see, I've already got the Guardian plate removed from the kayak with the 3 retaining screws. So what I did, I'm running a Garmin locator, so this is the GT54 UHD transducer. I did have that mounted just a little bit further back. I had to remount that just shy, let's see here, just shy of where it retracts, which led to, because they already have this hole in the Guardian plate from the factory, I used a piece of Kydex to span across, a couple of small stainless machine screws, and then the factory mounting locations, and in the rear use their factory mounting locations there also. On to the Fishhawk probe. As you can see, I mounted it flush. The speed wheel hangs over the plate a little bit, but obviously doesn't extend beyond, so it still fully retracts. And when this is retracted, it is fully above the bottom of the hull. So I'll have to be a little bit careful on beach launches, but I don't foresee there being a big issue. To mount it, I used their stock brackets, but I had to flip them 90 degrees and trim a little bit off of the overall length. Used the Sawzall for that. Drilled a new hole. Used the factory hardware to bolt through the ears on the transducer. And As you can see here, here's my 4 fasteners holding those brackets. Again, they were part of the Fishhawk probe, just had to modify them slightly. So once this is back in its place, I'm not going to take the time to put the screws in, but as you can see, when that's retracted, we are completely beyond flush with the bottom of the kayak. So again, I don't foresee any problems. The speed wheel scares me just a little bit on sandy beach launches. I'll probably just put my wheels in before I even pull it out of the water, just to be on the safe side. But with that, that's the install. Oh, before I leave, obviously this hole is where I had to cut in the plate, the Guardian plate. That's where that oscillating tool comes in real handy. I have nice square corners. If you don't have the oscillating tool, the Sawzall will work just fine. Just at each corner you'd have to drill about a 1/4 inch hole to get your Sawzall started, and it would accomplish the same ends. So with that, hope that gives anybody who's thinking about trying one of these new Fishhawk systems out, give you a little advice on getting it rigged up on a Hobie Pro Angler. Would also work on an Outback. The Guardian plate's the same. So thanks and have a good day.